Mardu is back and better than ever? Question mark. Hello there. I am Shaun McLaren and this is Mardu. This is Mardu. Anyways, so Mardu in Modern. Alright, so what has changed in Mardu that has made it more viable now? Well, Fatal Push is the answer. Fatal Push is very good removal. And we have 4 of it in here. You may notice that Path to Exile is gone completely from this list. I think that is the correct choice right now. Fatal Push is incredibly good right now. It usually acts as Path to Exile in probably like 85% of situations without giving them a land, maybe 80%. But it kills a lot of things in Modern right now, and very good card. Black is also more common than white in this deck, so it's easier on the mana, which is a big bonus. Fatal Push, big plus, big good addition to the deck. Also have Lightning Bolts as your other cheap removal, so Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt, some of the best removal in the format. You could hypothetically cut the bolts for paths, actually. That seems somewhat reasonable since you're rarely doming your opponent's face, but the removal right now in conjunction with the discard as well is very good. So very good early game. Bunch of cheap interaction for the early game that's very powerful. Wall of Omens as well. Good cycle. Good at protecting your planeswalkers. Good at just buying time. Collective Brutality is pretty reasonable split card between removal and card discard, so kind of supports your 1-drops, and also just great against burn, which is otherwise a bit of a troublesome matchup. And Dreadbore Terminate 1/1 split, just because Dreadbore sacrificing instant speed to be able to hit planeswalkers, and Terminate not able to hit planeswalkers but instant speed. 4 Lilianas. Liliana is a good way to get advantage after you've, say, removed some of your opponent's creatures or stripped their hand with Thoughtseizes Inquisitions. And of course, this is one of the decks where you're often ulting Liliana a bit more often than not, because you're expending your opponent's resources and protecting Liliana so well. So ulting Liliana is sort of kind of a win condition. Lingering Souls is just a really efficient card. It's not even that amazing in this deck, I would say, although you do have plenty of ways to discard it with Collective Brutality, Liliana, and Nahiri. But beyond that, it's just incredibly efficient, good at either closing out the game or protecting your planeswalkers or just trading with your opponent's creatures, and sort of virtual card advantage just because it's such an efficient way of getting creatures. Nahiri is your top end, and of course your win condition is Nahiri ulting, finding Emrakul. That's how you're winning most of your games, is just through Nahiri advantage. Nahiri's just great for discarding dead discarding dead discard in the late game, cycling through your deck, good stuff. And of course, exile, it's also removal. Like, you have so much incidental removal. All your cards are removal, pretty much. Mana base is 4 Shambling Vents, which are actually really useful since you can take a lot of damage in this deck, and it's good against burn as well. Helps mitigate the Thoughtseizes. Ghost Quarters are kind of removal as well, and then pretty much just regular Mardu mana base beyond that. Alright, the sideboard is starting with 3 relics. We Don't really have any Anger of the Gods against Dredge, so we're going to be relying on the relics. And the reason these aren't Rest in Pieces is mostly because of Lingering Souls, also a little bit because of Emrakul. If you draw Emrakul and then discard it, it gets ripped up by Rest in Peace, but not by Relic. And of course, Relic can just cycle in any matchup, whereas Rest in Peace is sometimes completely dead in a matchup where you would be fine just having Relic to cycle for 2 mana. Cycling is pretty good. Collective Brutality, number 3 for against Burn. Stony Silence against the usual suspects. Again, not really going too deep on the Stony Silences. I would rather like diversify into Engineered Explosives and not be turning off my own relics or explosives that often. Painful Truce is quite good in the deck, just starting with some discard, then refilling your hand, casting a bunch of removal. Definitely filling out a lacking part of the deck, which is the card advantage, card draw part of the deck, which is usually just Nahiri, basically. So Painful Truce is nice out of the board in certain matchups that are grindier. Timely, mostly against Burn, and just sort of a way to buy more time for your Planeswalkers. Fulminator Mages, of course, for the usual suspects, Valakut, Tron, that sort of thing. Wear Tear is going to just be your multi-purpose artifact enchantment removal, pretty standard. Standard Wear Tear for any decks that can run it, hitting Blood Moons, ensnaring bridges, etc. Damnation is going to be good against Eldrazi decks and larger creature decks. Just one though, because we don't really need it. We already have tons of removal. And Engineered Explosives is of course sort of a hedge against like Lantern and any sort of extra permanents you need to deal with. There are you can set it for 0 against Chalice or Lotus Bloom. It's very versatile removal, which I like to have access to in my sideboard. So yeah, that's the deck. Let's play some matches.